Heracles, Hercules in the Roman mythology, was born to Alcmena, a mortal woman, and Zeus, the king of the gods. His birth, however, angered Hera, Zeus's wife, who despised the child. Seeking revenge, she sent 2 serpents to his crib. But even as an infant, Heracles showed his strength. He grabbed the snakes and strangled them. Growing up, Heracles was trained by skilled mentors, including the wise centaur Chiron. He became proficient in combat, archery, and athletics. However, his temper was a challenge. In one incident, he struck and accidentally killed his music teacher, Linus, showcasing his immense but uncontrolled strength. Heracles later married Megara, the daughter of the king of Thebes, and they had children together. However, Hera's influence once again brought tragedy. She clouded Heracles' mind with madness, leading him to kill his wife and children. Overwhelmed with guilt, he sought guidance from the Oracle of Delphi, who instructed him to serve King Eurystheus and complete a series of difficult tasks to atone for his sins. Heracles' first task was to slay the Nemean Lion, a monstrous beast terrorizing the region of Nemea. The lion, offspring of the monstrous creature Orthrus, had impenetrable golden fur that could not be pierced by mortal weapons. Realizing that weapons were useless, Heracles used his brute strength to strangle the creature. As a trophy, he wore its indestructible pelt as armor, which would prove useful for his next tasks. Heracles' second challenge was to slay the Hydra, a monstrous serpent born from Typhon and Echidna, making it a sibling of Cerberus and the Chimera. The Hydra was nearly impossible to kill. Each time a head was severed, 2 more grew in its place, and 1 head was immortal. Luring the Hydra from its lair with flaming arrows, Heracles attacked, but cutting its heads only made it stronger. To make matters worse, Carcinus, a giant crab sent by Hera, joined the fight, but was killed by Heracles. Realizing brute strength wasn't enough, Heracles called on his nephew Iolaus for help. Iolaus devised a strategy. After each head was cut off, he cauterized the wound with fire to prevent regeneration. Together, they destroyed all but the immortal head, which Heracles severed and buried under a massive rock. Before leaving, Heracles dipped his arrows in the Hydra's poisonous blood, making them lethal weapons for future battles. In honor of Carcinus's efforts, Hera placed the crab among the stars as the constellation Cancer. Heracles' next task was to capture the sacred Ceryneian Hind, a golden-antlered deer of incredible speed, without harming it. Rather than relying on force, he spent a year tracking the hind across Greece. Near the river Ladon, he finally caught it by shooting an arrow between its tendons. On his way back, Artemis and Apollo confronted him, but Heracles explained he meant no harm. Recognizing his sincerity, they allowed him to complete the task on the condition that the hind would be released. Heracles' next task was to capture the monstrous Erymanthian boar alive, a rampaging beast that terrorized the countryside from its home on Mount Erymanthos. Tracking the boar, Heracles pursued it up the snowy slopes, using his presence and loud shouts to drive it toward deep snow where it struggled to move. Seizing the opportunity, he wrestled the creature and tied it up, securing his victory. When he returned to Mycenae, Heracles dramatically dropped the massive boar at Eurystheus's feet. Terrified, the king fled and hid inside a bronze jar, a moment that became one of the most famous displays of his cowardice. For his fifth challenge, Heracles faced a task meant to humiliate him. Cleaning the filthy stables of King Augeas, in a single day. Home to thousands of divine cattle, the stables hadn't been cleaned for years, leaving behind mountains of waste. Rather than relying on brute force, Heracles struck a deal. If he succeeded, he would receive 1/10 of Augeas's cattle. Using his wits, he diverted the Alpheus and Peneus rivers, letting their waters wash away the filth in hours. However, when he claimed his reward, Augeas denied their agreement. Furious, Heracles later returned, defeated him, and took his due by force. Despite the success, Eurystheus refused to count the labor, claiming it was done for payment. Heracles was then sent in revenge to deal with the Stymphalian birds. The Stymphalian birds were monstrous, man-eating creatures with razor-sharp metallic feathers. Sacred to Ares, the god of war, they terrorized the land around Lake Stymphalia, attacking both people and animals. To drive them away, Heracles received help from Athena, who gave him bronze castanets crafted by Hephaestus. Standing on a hill, he clashed them together, creating a deafening noise that sent the birds into a frenzy. As they took flight, Heracles shot them down with arrows dipped in the Hydra's poisonous blood. Heracles' seventh labor took him to Crete, where he faced the mighty Cretan bull, the very beast that fathered the Minotaur. Originally sent by Poseidon as a divine offering, the bull had been spared by King Minos, angering the god and turning the creature wild. Tracking the rampaging beast, Heracles confronted it head-on. With sheer strength, he wrestled it to the ground and subdued it without weapons. Instead of slaying it, he led the bull back to Mycenae alive. However, upon seeing the beast, King Eurystheus panicked and ordered its release, allowing it to wreak havoc once more. Heracles' next task was to capture the 4 man-eating mares of King Diomedes, wild beasts that fed on human flesh and breathed fire. After defeating the stable guards, Heracles stole the horses, but Diomedes pursued him. In a brutal twist, Heracles killed the king and fed his body to the mares, which miraculously pacified them. Now tamed, he led them back to Mycenae. Heracles was sent for his 9th labor to retrieve the magical belt of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, as a gift for Eurystheus's daughter. At first, Hippolyta welcomed him and willingly offered the belt. However, Hera, disguised as an Amazon, spread rumors that Heracles planned to abduct the queen. Chaos erupted, and in the ensuing battle, Heracles killed Hippolyta and took the belt by force. Heracles' next task took him to the edge of the world to steal the prized red cattle of Geryon, a monstrous giant with 3 bodies. Using the golden chariot of Helios, he reached the island of Erythea, where he swiftly killed the herdsman and the guard dog. With a single poisoned arrow, he slew Geryon himself. Bringing the cattle back was no easy feat. Hera sent a gadfly to scatter them, forcing Heracles to round them up again. Despite countless obstacles, he completed the task, proving his ability to overcome even the most impossible odds. Heracles was then tasked with stealing the golden apples of the Hesperides, guarded by nymphs and the dragon Ladon. Rather than fighting, he sought help from Atlas, the Titan who held up the sky. In a clever bargain, Heracles offered to take Atlas's burden if he retrieved the apples. Atlas agreed, but then tried to leave Heracles trapped under the sky. Thinking quickly, Heracles tricked him into taking it back and escaped with the apples. For his final challenge, Heracles had to capture Cerberus, the 3-headed guardian of the Underworld, without using weapons. Guided by Hermes and Athena, he descended into Hades' realm and asked the god of the dead for permission. Hades agreed, on the condition that Heracles used only his strength. In a fierce struggle, Heracles wrestled Cerberus into submission and dragged him to the surface. Upon seeing the beast, Eurystheus panicked and begged Heracles to return it. This labor symbolized his ultimate triumph, proving he could even conquer death itself. Even after his labors, Heracles continued to embark on adventures, leading armies and engaging in battles across Greece. He played a role in the Trojan War and rescued princesses and cities in distress. But tragedy would strike his life again. Heracles married Deianira, a princess of Calydon, after saving her from a river god named Achilles. While traveling together, they encountered the centaur Nessus, who offered to carry Deianira across a river. However, Nessus attempted to abduct her, and Heracles shot him with a poisoned arrow. Before dying, Nessus deceitfully told Deianira that his blood would ensure Heracles' eternal love. Later, fearing Heracles was unfaithful, Deianira smeared the supposed love potion on a tunic and gave it to him. Upon wearing it, the poison burned his flesh, leading to his agonizing death. In his final moments, Zeus lifted Heracles to Olympus, granting him immortality. The gods welcomed him as one of their own, and he was reconciled with Hera, who had tormented him throughout his mortal life. In Olympus, he married Hebe, the goddess of youth, and was honored as a divine protector and champion of humanity. His legacy endured through myths, temples, and festivals dedicated to his incredible feats, ensuring that the name of Heracles would be remembered for eternity